It's time now for the KC Ingram Show on WSTU. The opinions expressed are those of the program host and guest and not necessarily those of WSTU. WSTU does not endorse products that may be mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU. It's time to call in with your questions and comments at 220-9788, 220-WSTU. And now, here's KC Ingram.
Tired of lines at the boat launch, sun damage, or not using your boat because of the hassle? Call Meridian Marina and Yacht Club because we do all the work so you can enjoy your boating lifestyle. Restore your boat inside, launch it with a wash with just 30 minutes notice, and rinse it down before putting it back. Need new electronics, service, detailing, bottom paint? No problem. Our experienced certified techs will make sure your boat is in tip-top shape and ready to head to the sandbar, fishing, or the Bahamas. Call us up at 772-221-8198. That's 221-8198, or visit us online at meridianmarina.com. In the studio this evening, we have a very important topic that's really been in the headlines here recently, of course, and that's human trafficking. And I have representatives from Catch the Wave of Hope, here, a local organization that is really fighting to abolish human trafficking. So to my far right is board member Janice Norman. How are you doing this evening, Janice?
Good, Casey.
And right next to me is Kelly, and I hope I pronounce this right, Catania?
Yes,
All right. She is Director of Operations with Catch the Wave. So let me start out and ask simply, and either one of you can answer, what is human trafficking? Janice.
Human trafficking really is a form of modern day slavery where women and children are being used against their will for either sex or labor. Catch the Wave of Hope is really focused on human sex trafficking, not labor trafficking.
How long has Catch the Wave of Hope been an organization here in the area?
We've been an organization for about 3 years.
And certainly, let's go back a little bit more. How long has human trafficking been around? It's kind of we were just talking before the show, it's a newer term.
Well, it's been around forever, but we've just now identified it in the last few years of women being used and children being used for sex, for money that's against their will, through usually force, coercion, or some type of fraud.
And certainly that's what we've had happen right here on the Treasure Coast in Martin County. I believe every listener out there has probably heard of the cases through the spas here. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do that show is it was so disheartening as I read that story to think about the women that worked at those spas. And that's exactly what you folks are out to try and abolish. These women were, they believed that they were enslaved, that they didn't have a choice. So tell us a little bit, how does this happen?
Well, these women, specifically in the spas here, were brought to the United States thinking that they're going to come as massage therapists into legitimate jobs. Typically what happens with these women is that once they enter the country, they lose their passports and they become enslaved as massage therapists or nail techs, all kinds of different types of careers of which they have no choice in. And they're really held in squalid conditions. You know, they're not free to come and go. These women were actually living in the spas and being transported in between spas. So terrible living conditions and really no freedom.
What signs can neighbors and can everyday people look for something like this happening? Because that was the other astonishing part, is how many spas are in the area and how long they have been operating. And there was some quotes in the paper where some people said, well, it doesn't quite look right, but yet it operated for, I think some of them were since 2016 and probably before then. What can people be on the lookout for? And who do they report it to?
Well, I think in this specific incident, you know, there were a lot of high-end cars, a lot of men leaving at all hours of the day. But some of the other signs to look for just in even a home that's used for trafficking is, again, men leaving all hours of the day, maybe a guard sitting at the door, windows that are constantly covered. One of the houses that was raided down in Palm Beach County area, the hurricane shutters were on, 365 days a year. So the best thing that you can do if you notice something unusual happening in your neighborhood is to call 911. Let them know what you're seeing. If you think that there's human trafficking there and there's a victim there, then there are the human trafficking hotline, which you can call, which is 1-888-373-7888. So pretty easy number to remember.
And this is a really tough issue for these women because they were enslaved. And if you follow it all in the paper, they're afraid to talk. So this is a really big problem to abolish because the law enforcement obviously need proof that this is happening and the women need to testify. So this is a really tough topic. And I'm sure you've run into that. Where can these women go where they can get help? Is there organizations such as yourself that can help them get on their feet again? What happens here?
Well, there's a lot of things going on with these women. First of all, they have what they call trauma bonding, and that's exactly what you're referring to, is they're afraid to talk because they're particularly these international women, their families are being threatened, their children, so they're afraid of what's happening at home if they do talk. But they also have to admit that they are being trafficked against their will. And once that they do that, then there are organizations that can help them. They're kind of scattered throughout Florida. And one of the things we're trying to do at Catch the Wave of Hope is pull all these resources together so that when we get a call, we can get them funneled to the right direction to an organization that can help them.
What about younger girls, school-age children? This is certainly an issue that everybody has to worry about. So through your organization, how do you reach younger children, and how young do we need to be concerned? At what age do you start worrying about for your daughters and sons too, I'm sure, to be
I think
lured in?
Middle school age, definitely, when they start using social media, have a little bit more freedom. It's really important for parents to know what their children are doing on Facebook, online gaming, and all apps. We talk about apps that are being taken down, but by the time the app gets identified, there's a new one. So I don't really like to talk about a specific application through social media because
Ever changing.
It's ever changing. It's ever changing. So we really need to know where they are, what they're doing. If they're at the mall or at the beach, you need to know what they're doing. And we also need to build our girls up and our boys that we love them and we're proud of what they're doing, because that's how the traffickers lure them in. They find that one little piece of lack of self-confidence, and then they key in on that and they draw the child in. So one of the traffickers that's a survivor tells us all the time that the reason that she stayed with her trafficker is that he was the only man who ever told her he was proud of her.
Oh my goodness.
So, if there's moms and dads out there listening, tell your kids how proud you are of them and how much you love them, and give them that self-confidence boost.
That's absolutely important. And what can parents look for as a sign that their child might be lured in by somebody? You said watch the social media apps. What are they watching for? Are they a special friend or older friends? What?
Yeah, older friends that they don't know that are trying to friend them. Instagram is huge. One of the things that we're seeing happening is being asked, if you want to come try out to be a model, we'll pay you $1,000 to come be a model. We actually traced a trafficker through our organization and the sheriff's department to California last year. They had Instagrammed, messaged a prominent business person's daughter here saying that they had wealth verified gentlemen and that she could take the relationship wherever she wanted. They were doing a summer hiring push. Are you down with it? So, know who they're friending, what they're using on Instagram, and also with online gaming. When they're talking online gaming, a lot of times these traffickers are reaching out and trying to lure them through the online gaming.
The traffickers, they seem to come in a lot of different faces and a lot of different methods. I'll share a story real quickly. It was somebody I know up north, college student, and somebody came in and was posting jobs, throughout the campus and said, you need to come to the hotel. It turned out it was a human trafficking ring, and they were abducting the girls. So, they thought it was an innocent meeting for a job interview, and you just really have to be cautious and be smart. I mean, you have to.
Absolutely.
One of the scariest stories that I've learned through the organization, KC, is that it's not only these people that are doing it through the apps and different things like that, but they also befriend these girls. And we had a woman that spoke, Dr. Katerina Rosenblatt, at one of our first events, and she talked about how her family broke up and how she was forced to live in a hotel with her mother. And as a young girl in her young teens, there was a sweet, nice girl, Mary, that befriended her at the pool. And she was so glad to finally make a friend. And here she was working for the traffickers as, someone to lure her in, which is exactly what she did. And this young woman goes all over the country and speaks about it. And she's an advocate for, victims and survivors. And it's just, you think to yourself, this couldn't possibly happen to me or my child. But then you think to yourself, if you were in a vulnerable situation, as Jana said, compliment your child, make them feel good about themselves, because if you don't, somebody will. And those are the kids that stick out, and those are the ones they grab.
That's one. If there's vulnerability, that's what they prey on.
Mhm.
So it's very sad. Let's talk a little bit about your fundraising. I know you have some great fundraisers coming up, and this is a very important Catch the Wave of Hope, very important organization to support, and you're doing such good work. So what do you have coming up?
Well, thank you so much. We just had a very successful event. It was our first inaugural breakfast at the Crevice Center last month, and it was very well received. And ironically, it happened the very week that the Jupiter bus came out, which was just insane.
Wow.
You talk about God's timing. That's a blessing in disguise.
Right.
That's exactly what it was. Very well received, and we've been asked back for several events there now. But what we have coming up is this Saturday, and it's sold out. Sorry if anyone's listening, but you can get on our email list and we can inform you of future events. But as Jana said, we have the woman who just found out her husband was arrested. And then we also have our survivor that talks about how she was lured. And it's going to be at Kyle G's this Saturday. And it's an awareness program like we do a lot of. And it's also a fundraiser to help us build that home for those traffic victims.
Tell us a little bit more about that home. How much more do you need to raise? When do you want to build it?
Well, we'd love to do it tomorrow because we know there's a need. It's going to take $1 million of fundraising because of the therapy and the different things that are involved. And lucky for us, we have a phenomenal real estate agent as our president. So she's always on the lookout for properties, but we do need that funding. We do need the money. We do understand that it's a lot of money, but we also know there's a lot of need for it. And as Jana said, we want to pull together our resources and do all we can to give these girls the therapy and young boys as well, whatever it takes to help. So funding is huge. Then, of course, finding the location and then staffing it with the people that are going to give therapy and counseling and art therapy and all these things that we want to incorporate into the program. It's a phenomenal idea, but the money has to be there in order for us to move forward like we want to.
Certainly, and luckily we're in a community that I'm absolutely certain that the funds will be raised. How far along are you in the process? Is this something you're just starting or partway there?
Well, we're going to have some exciting news come out this weekend that I can't
Oh, shoot. You can't
tell you right now.
Can't share it on the KC Ingram Show first.
I can't share it right now because it's going to come out breaking news on Saturday. But we're taking some major steps to get this process off of the ground. So, we've spent the first part of our existence really trying to educate the community and bring awareness that human trafficking does happen right here in South Florida and in Martin County. And now we're getting ready to go to the next step to make some major strides with bringing some services here.
This is absolutely wonderful news. And, as we talk here, how big of a problem is human trafficking? I just want to share a few statistics, and I know you'll count. or comment on them. Senator Harrell is supposed to be calling in. I haven't heard from her yet. She may be caught up in Tallahassee, but she is sponsoring a bill. It's Senate Bill 370. And the bill is basically provides that a person who solicits, induces, entices, or procures a victim of human trafficking to commit prostitution, lewdness, or assignation shall be sentenced to minimum mandatory period of incarceration of 30 days in addition to any other penalty imposed. Again, it's Senate Bill 370, but her office was kind enough to share with me some statistics that were absolutely shocking. Human trafficking is the third largest international crime industry, generating a profit of an estimated $32 billion a year. In 2016, there were an estimated 40.3 million victims. 40.3 million victims of human trafficking. From 2007 to 2017, there were 40,987 human trafficking cases reported to the National Human Trafficking Hotline. In 2017, the hotline and Be Free text line recorded a total of 8,759 cases in the United States alone. That's almost 9,000 cases in the U.S. alone, which was a 13% jump in the number of identified human trafficking cases from the prior year. And they receive an average of 150 calls per day. It's absolutely shocking. And then they also stated that sex trafficking accounted for 6,244 of the reported cases of human trafficking in 2017. And that's what Catch the Wave of Hope focuses on, is the sex trafficking. So that was over 70% of those cases were sex trafficking. So these are really shocking statistics.
And Florida is number 3 in the entire country for human trafficking, and our region is 3rd in the state.
Wow.
So we are in the heart of it, which is crazy. Texas and California are ahead of us.
Texas and California are number 1, and Martin and St. Lucie County are number 3 for number of calls to the hotline.
That is just mind-boggling, and it shows how important this organization is, and we need to get that house. So certainly we need the fundraising, and please donate to Catch the Wave of Hope. We talk a little bit more, and before we came on the air, we talked a little bit about art and helping children understand how human trafficking works. And can you talk to that just a little bit about, when you're talking to students, you can't just lay such a heavy topic on them. So
yeah, when Lynn Barletta, our founder, is a very well-known artist, and she has created a technique to use when we go and talk with students. And the biggest thing that we do with them is to try to give them a visual of how traffickers lure them in. And we use a gift with a fish hook in it and give them the picture up. When you go fishing, you throw your line out multiple times, but you got to have bait on that hook to be able to pull that fish in. And that's exactly what traffickers are doing, trying to lure our children in to be a trafficked victim. And that bait could be a cell phone, it could be money, it could be designer jeans. And we have the students name out what is something that you want that might be a gift that would lure you in. And then we take it one step further with a treasure chest, and we talk about what is real love. And it's not material things.
It's not being given a cell phone.
It's not being given a cell phone. So we really, through pictures, try to get them to visualize the difference between real love, not real love, and how these traffickers lure them in.
Does your organization go into the schools? And I ask that because, from January through June of 2018, the hotline had 367 human trafficking cases reported in Florida. And it said that the children are often those targeted in trafficking operations, with 12 to 14 years of age being the average age that is trafficked victim is first used for commercial sex. 12 to 14.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So we have not been able to get into the schools to talk to students, but what we have done is offered awareness trainings at schools to teachers and to parents and to PTAs. We actually did a big presentation to all of the principals about 1.5 years ago. So we really would love to get into the school systems and be able to talk with them about trafficking. One of the things one of our parents said that spoke on the news for us is that we teach children in school about sex education and what they should know about their bodies, but we don't teach them how to protect them.
This seems to be a relatively new topic. As you said, it's been around forever, but as far as coming to the forefront, it's relatively new. And I think it's turning out to be such a large problem. It's caught everybody a little bit by surprise. And it almost seems inevitable that it needs to be taught in the schools, to be honest with you. To have girls and boys 12 to 14 years of age, they're so young to be equipped with such a heavy topic that is forever life-changing.
And the boys are actually average age 11.
Oh my
which they go after boys because boys sometimes are more materialistic than girls because they're into the gaming and they're into the sports and things like that. And that's one of the things that they do is they get on, your kid has on the headphones, they're playing the games internationally or nationally, and they talk to them and they get to be friends and you have no idea who you're talking to. And they literally will say they'll work on them for years, but they will find a way normally to meet up with that person and do something to them to manipulate them.
And one thing with Senator Harrell's bill, she actually wants, it was a minimum of 30 days jail time. That was going to be, the bill requires the current 10-day minimum mandatory sentence for a second or subsequent violation to be served consecutively to the 30-day minimum mandatory sentence. So when it comes down to the bottom line of human trafficking and sex trafficking, it's money.
Mm-hmm.
You stop the money supply and you stop a need for it. So, what's your opinion? I don't know if you ladies have had a chance to read this bill.
Yes, we have actually read the bill and actually worked with her a little bit on this. This is really all about demand. And until we put an end to demand, we're not going to end this. And we have to put it into the money piece of it because we all know that money drives everything. And I forget you said $32 billion industry. Yes. Just in the United States alone, it's about $10 to $15 billion. So until we stop that, we're never going to put an end to this crime. So I think they should get more than 30 days, but I'll take 30 days as a start.
Absolutely. And one thing that haunts me a little bit with this case is I think about the poor women that were in the spas, and I'm talking about the local spas cases. They were enslaved. They were forced to do the massages and more, as we know. But the men, prostitution's illegal, but did they know that they were, human trafficked, sex traffickers? Probably not. But yet you need somebody to step up and do the right thing and say, this doesn't look right. This really isn't a spa, right? Doesn't it what this comes down to? Well,
the one thing that I thought was interesting was that the girls were cooking outside. They said that's a telltale sign that they're not allowed to leave the premises. Another thing that Lynn said that is when they clear out these homes, the number of condoms that are found in the trash is a telltale sign that these women are just forced to have sex 20 to 60 times a day. It's just insane. And as we spoke about earlier, the days of drug trafficking was that you had to have that product and you had to smuggle it and you had to carry it and it was very risky. And if you can just find a child or a young girl that can be manipulated, then you can turn that person over and over for a lot more than a product that you sell once. So that is the lore of it now, that people are like, drugs are being busted and drugs are becoming legal in some places. We need to get creative, and this is what they have found.
And it's just, I'm just disgusted by this, and it's dehumanizing women and girls, and there was no value to them. They're nothing more than a moneymaker for whoever. We don't even know who is actually ultimately responsible for these sex rings. Whoever it goes back to, and it's clearly somebody back in China. At least that's what it appears. Mm-hmm. It was a tough topic, and I appreciate you coming on here, because how anybody can dehumanize a woman in that way or in any way is just unconscionable to me. So I so appreciate that you ladies are out here fighting the fight, and Catch the Wave of Hope has such a big mission ahead of it.
Yes, we do. And we do need the help. So if anyone wants additional information, please go to catchthewaveofhope.org. Let us know if you want to receive our newsletter, invitations to our upcoming events. We're always doing fundraising and awareness, and we'd love to have everyone there.
Absolutely. That's very good. So catchthewaveofhope.org. Always take financial contributions. You're a 501c3, so it's a
Yes.
tax write-off as well. As we finish out the show, I think we have about a minute left. What message can you want to leave in people's mind? What to think about? We've talked a lot about the spa cases. We've talked about children. The biggest thing I think of is, what do we need to look out for? And we've talked a little bit about that as well. But I had a guest on about a year ago for human trafficking, and it was exactly as you said. They'll even pray in malls and look for that vulnerable little girl that hangs her head down instead of walking tall and proud. I
Yep.
mean, it's every little nuance they really watch out for people, and it's the vulnerable that they're looking for, and we just have to be aware of that.
Everybody has to be educated. We can't stick our head in the sand about this. And I do want you to know that Catch the Wave of Hope has a speakers bureau. We'll come talk to 5 people or 500 people. We want the message out there so people know what to look for in their children, and also know how to identify a home or a spa within our communities. We want the community to rise up and fight this battle with us, so that we can say this isn't going to happen on our watch.
Janice Norman, that's very important. I'm so glad to hear you had a speakers bureau, and I'm glad you had a chance to add that in. Kelly Catania, I appreciate both of you so much. And again, Catch the Wave of Hope. Let's abolish human trafficking. Appreciate you coming in today.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for having us.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.